but you really just need to try it, test it, let it run for a little bit, see what the results are. If you have to adjust, you have to adjust.
We interrupt this program to bring you this important message. Welcome to Marketing Interruption, a daily podcast powered by BlueTuskr that interrupts your day with marketing news, tips and strategies from an entrepreneur who lives and breathes marketing. Now, let the interruption begin with your host, Andrew Maff.
Hello and welcome to episode number 5 of Marketing Interruption. I'm your host, Andrew Maff, and today is Friday, thus it's a recap week, recap episode of the week. So today I'm going to kind of recap everything I went over earlier this week. I'm also going to start to utilize these times to answer questions from anyone that we've had questions over the week. However, it's a brand new podcast. No one knew I was doing this, so I had to reach out to some people I've worked with over the years who was like, hey, you know what? First couple weeks, I'm obviously going to need some help here. So I got some questions from them and leave it to them to give me some questions where I'm like, oh, great. I have to actually think pretty hard about that one. The very first episode we had, the very first one of the week was our first one ever. And obviously, if you're even to this level of listening or watching the 5th episode, I appreciate it. So the first one was just an introduction about how the podcast is going to be. So far, I feel like I've held true to it. Granted, it's very new. And then Tuesday, we went over obviously where the marketing industry, where any industry is going because of everything that's going on right now in these unprecedented times. And then we got into some good stuff of repurposing content on Wednesday. And then yesterday, obviously, I went through the ultimate list of gated content ideas. So everything I kind of touched on this week was a little all over the place for the most part. I'm generally going to attempt to stick to some kind of theme throughout each week to just kind of give you like, hey, this week we're going to focus on SEO, or this week we're going to focus on email marketing. But this week obviously was a little bit different. It's a bit of an intro, a bit of a discussion into where I think things are going to go in the future. And then obviously I kind of wanted to give some insight into how it is I'm doing this and what I'm going to do with the content and how I've been leveraging it over the years. So essentially, really just a simple recap this week. I know the first 2 episodes were kind of all over the place. First one was just me telling you guys what's going on here. Second one was my thoughts on where things will be next year, which is essentially no one knows except prepare to be as budget conscious as you possibly can, because a lot of people are going to be trigger happy for a while. And then ad spend is going to be up and down, and no one really knows if we get a vaccine by early next year. I still think that people will be kind of nervous to go back to normal. So we're definitely going to see a new normal come mid to late 2021. Repurposing the content. I told you that essentially I'll make these videos 10 to 15 minutes, and then we will basically go through and chop up the videos, transcribe them, turn them into a blog post, reach out to everyone who's in the video, and I'll put them in many different platforms as I possibly can with slightly different variations. And I'll send everyone back to the blog post. And when I send everyone back to said blog post is what we went over yesterday, which is the gated content. So we went over all the different gated content things we can do, which was calculators and quizzes. And even though I hate them, ebooks and white papers and live lists and calendars, chatbots, Slack communities, social groups, one-page PDFs, one-on-one sessions or coaching sessions, however you want to call them. I think I'm missing another couple ones that I mentioned as well. And then that was it for the week. And I know one of the things I also kind of want to do is to kind of give you guys some insight on some news that is going on, whether it's relevant to a specific industry or it's relevant to marketing or anything like that. And the struggle I'm going to have with doing this bit is basically I'm not going to do these like every week. I'm going to hammer out a lot in one shot, which is life. Because that's just me trying to be as quick with these as I possibly can. But one of the things that just came out last week, or I guess it would technically be this week, was Walmart is finally announcing their version of Prime. So a lot of my e-commerce sellers that I've worked with over the years started to reach out to me on my thoughts with that, especially because Walmart also, I think, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they finally integrated better with Shopify than they had done before. So I started to get a lot of questions with that. And I have always thought that Walmart was a great place for e-commerce sellers to go. If you're a seller, if you're not, I understand this isn't for you, but it's interesting for a lot of industries just to kind of see what I think Walmart is doing wrong, which is essentially they took years to come out with what I think they're calling Walmart Plus. And from everything I've read so far, it's basically the same crap as Amazon Prime. So I don't know why it took you so long to put together something that like you're just copycatting. You didn't do anything really that innovative as far as I know. So we'll see what comes out. But it's very interesting to see a massive company like that just kind of miss the boat, at least in my opinion. So we'll see what happens there. But that is something that did come out this past week. So that is my opinion on it. And I'll try to touch on more news later. But so questions. As I had mentioned, it's a new podcast, so I obviously didn't have anyone reach out yet about questions. So I went ahead and reached out to some past people that I've worked with. And of course, one comes from a good friend of mine who I worked with for years. Her name's Morgan. And she asked me a very interesting question that was relevant to the podcast I was doing. So she asked, how do you establish a brand voice for a new company? So that is an incredibly difficult and easy answer, and mainly because when it's a new company, you can make it whatever you want, but you need to think about who you're targeting. So obviously you need to build out a customer profile of who your current target is. Chances are when you're a new company, you're going to pivot 500 times and it may change. Obviously you need to update the customer profile over every 6 months or something like that, but you need to think about who you're targeting, where they live, income, salary, education, sex, relationship status, like all that extra stuff, depending on what you're selling. A lot of that can be relevant. But to me, the most important thing is not only do you need to know who they are, but you need to know how they feel at that point of purchase. So when someone is buying a car versus when someone's buying a puppy, they're in two very different mindsets. So you have to also think about how that person is feeling at that time. So when you're doing a new brand voice for a new company, you want to consider those things, but at the same time, you also just have to just put it out there, and you have to try, and then you have to adjust, and you will eventually find your voice. So it's the same thing with starting a new podcast. Your first few episodes aren't going to be great. They're going to suck probably. And then over time, I'm hoping I will start to develop more of just my voice, and I'm understanding what's working. It's the same concept. It's the same thing for when you do anything new. It's not a great answer. It's not a tactical answer as much as it is a lot of people are afraid to commit to a brand voice, but you really just need to try it, test it, let it run for a little bit, see what the results are. If you have to adjust, you have to adjust. But I would definitely recommend doing a lot of research into how that person feels at that buying point and adjust your voice to be how that person would want to be spoken to at that moment. Obviously, I'm just going to do one question a week for the first few weeks until this starts to grow. So please rate, review, subscribe. Make sure you email me at BlueTuskr at, nope, that's not it. Make sure you email me at marketinginterruption@BlueTuskr.com with any marketing questions or anything that you'd like to make sure that I kind of go over in one of these episodes. But I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all next time.
Thank you for joining us for today's Marketing Interruption. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And don't forget to email marketinginterruption@BlueTuskr.com with any marketing questions you'd like to have answered on the show. And head over to marketinginterruption.bluetuskr.com to catch up on past episodes. Until next time, we now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.